If she forgot that it was a limit, that's fucked up. If she forgot to share with the second dominant what his limits were, that's fucked up. If she intentionally did not share with the other dominant what those limits were, that's fucked up. If she didn't communicate thoroughly or effectively enough so that the other dominant would understand slut boy's limits, that's fucked up. And here's the thing. Woo, this is going to be really unpopular. Oh, I'm not going to be making friends with this line. You said, slut boy, I didn't want to embarrass my mistress. I had to violate my own boundary. I had to accept something that violated my boundary in order to not embarrass my mistress. In other words, it's my responsibility to protect my dominant from the consequences of their own action. It's codependent, it's not submission. And it also tells me how insecure your dominant actually is. If that precedent has been subconsciously established in your dynamic to the point, slut boy, where you are actually willing to consciously violate your own hard limits to protect your dominant from the embarrassment of her own bullshit choices, that's not submission, that's codependency, and it proves to me how weak and powerless your dominant actually is. That's not a healthy leader. That's not a healthy dominant. To make the submissive feel responsible for your own emotional well-being? You kidding me right now? That should never be the submissive's responsibility, because think about how much, not just how fucked up and toxic that is, but think about how it interferes with subspace, with transient hypofrontality. Okay? That subspace, that transient hypofrontality, that blissed out space where we lose track of time, we feel like we're floating, all kinds of things. Those chemicals that get released, pew, 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 don't happen and can't happen if you are so in your head, because you feel like you have to monitor your dominant. Not the submissive's job. But way too many submissives feel responsible for monitoring their dominant's emotions, because a lot of dominants are hiding behind the label of dominant because they're fearful avoidant, they're dismissive avoidant, they have hardcore attachment issues, deeply insecure. And so when they get triggered, they can just ghost, hide, whatever, so they won't actually be revealed as the scared, insecure people that they are. I'm not saying that is this particular case, but oh yeah, I've seen this play out. Okay? And if that had been a limit linked to a trigger, yeah, exactly. It could have been so much worse. So here's my advice for you, slut boy, in this situation. I know that you love your mistress. You don't want to go anywhere. I see you. I see that and I honor that, okay? And I'm not trying to diss anyone here. I'm trying to protect you, okay? So slut boy, my friend who I love so much, here's the thing. The only advice that I would kind of give you is, you said this is kind of a limit. And I can see why you said kind of a limit, because you're like, it's gonna leave marks in obvious places, and that's a limit for me not to have marks in obvious places, but I could just wear a long sleeve tee. So I understand that you're like, it's kind of a limit because I don't prefer it, but I have a backup plan, essentially. So I see that, and I think that that's great for you to like be so chill about it. But I think that you need to be really, really resolute on what is a limit or what's not. And honestly, if that's it, where you love impact so much to the point where you don't even care about your own limits anymore, then stop calling them limits, because I have to take back everything I just said. If that's the case, I have to take back everything I just said, because you're doing this to you. you're doing this to you. If you tell your dominant, this is my limit, and then she hits the limit, and you say, no, no, it's okay, keep going, you're creating unnecessary confusion. So then what is she supposed to do if the guest dominant is like, I want him to whip himself in his forearms? She's like, well, he doesn't really have, he says it's a limit, but he'll do whatever you want anyway. Doesn't matter. Do you see what I'm saying?